Hello everyone, my name is Michael from Polygon Island, and I apologize, I'm a little bit sick, so if I sound congested or anything, that's why. I've had a really bad case of strep throat. But anyway, for this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this cool, kind of Nordic, very foggy, very atmospheric, cinematic, kind of render. So let's get into it. So the main model that we're going to use for the focal point of this render is a model I found on Sketchfab. It's basically a desert planet bunker garage thing. It looks like a pretty cool model. It looks kind of sci-fi-ish, without being too sci-fi-ish, which I like. So I'll leave this link in the description, just like always, along with anything else that I might use. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and download this 3D model, and I'm just gonna download it in the original format and stuff. But the plan for this tutorial, I'm going to be using Megascan's assets once again. There are ways to get Megascan's assets free. I've made videos on them before, but if you don't have Megascan's assets, you can always use something else or a free alternative. There's tons of different nature models on the internet. But now that we have this, I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to take these two folders, and I'm just going to extract them somewhere. I'm going to extract them in my pictures folder, since I don't have these folders, because I download a lot of stuff off this, and they're always called source and textures. So I have like a bunch of different folders and different folders on my computer called source and textures. But anyway, that's not what we're here for right now. So what are we going to do? First thing I would like to do is, before we import the model, I would like to create the base terrain, just kind of the shape of it. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard for deleting the default cube. I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh, Plane, S, and I'm going to scale it up to 10. So that's S on my keyboard, and then 10, just 10 on my number pad. So now that we have this, what we can do, well, what we can't do yet is sculpt. We're going to be sculpting the terrain. If you're not familiar with sculpting in Blender, it's very, very easy for stuff like this. As long as you're not making like a character or something, you'll be fine. But if we try to sculpt on this right now, nothing would happen. We have one face, we have 4 vertices, which means there's nothing for Blender to move. So what do we do about that? Well, we hit Tab on our keyboard, we right-click, subdivide, and then just give it about 60 subdivisions. That isn't well enough for sculpting a little terrain. But basically what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a cube where I want the building to be placed, just so I have a general idea of how to build the landscape up after that. So I'm just going to add a cube. I want the camera angle to be kind of down next to the ground, looking up at it. So let me just move where I would like this camera to be, scale this cube down a little bit. I'm going to hit Control-Alt-0 on my keyboard. It's Control-Alt-and-0 on my number pad, just so I have a place to kind of block out this thing right here. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit, hit G on my keyboard, scroll wheel, and then move it forward. Something like that should be nice. Maybe like that. We can always fix this later. This is just a basic block out. So now that we have that, what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and split this window right here. And then over on this one, actually I'm going to go to sculpting I'm just going to go to the sculpting tab and then split the window. And then once we split the window, we can just kind of look, we can hit 0 on this and look at our camera view to make sure everything's fine. Make sure we're not sculpting anything we don't want to sculpt. And so now we can actually get into the actual sculpting part. So, this is pretty much anything you want. It's pretty much completely up to you what you want your terrain and composition to look like. But you can follow along with me if you want. Either way works. Excuse me. So just go up here to Object Mode and Sculpt Mode. And I'm basically just going to kind of sculpt a little bit up through right there. Maybe some up there. Control Z. I don't want that much. And then just kind of come down here, give it a little bit over on here, add some higher parts right through here, just so we have something like that. And that's looking pretty good right now. we don't need to sculpt out this whole terrain. If you're not gonna view the whole terrain, don't sculpt it. Only sculpt what is being viewed by the camera. Unless you just want a full scene, then you can go ahead and do that. But since my camera right now is only viewing this part, I'm going to leave this part alone. My composition changes and I want to move the camera somewhere else, then I'm going to sculpt the rest. But for now, this is good. You can see over here on our camera, we have a little bit of changes on the ground. We have a little bit of height. And then we have back here, this kind of raises up more, just to kind of give it more. We're going to be filling most of it out with environment assets from Quixel, but just having the general terrain shape is always really good. Now, what you'll probably notice is that you can see the faces on this plane. You can see each individual face, which we don't really want. So the way to fix that is to just right-click and then click Shade Smooth, and then that gets rid of it and just shades it smooth. I'm going to keep this window open because we're going to need it in a minute. But if we just go to our camera view, we can see this is what it's looking like right now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually import the 3D model. So just go to File, Import, and whatever it was, I'm pretty sure it was FBX. And I'm just going to go to wherever I downloaded it. It's in the source folder. And then I just import the building. Now give it a little second, and it will import. You can see we have the whole building right here. I'm actually going to drag it out to the side for just a second. I don't want to sit it down yet. But what we can do is we can go up here to this little ball and grid over at the very top left under the Blender logo, click it, and then go to Shader Editor. And then if we click on any part of our object, you can see it's not textured. So we're going to have to go through and texture most of this object. So luckily our materials are already made. We just have to get the actual textures. So I'm going to start off on this concrete, this middle concrete slab. I'm going to go to up here to Edit at the top left, Preferences, wait for this to load, and then under Add-ons, just type in Node Wrangler, and then enable it. It just makes working with nodes and texturing in general a lot easier. So with all these, we can go ahead and disconnect this normal map, just delete it, select it, and hit Delete. And then click on your Principal BSDF, hit Control, Shift, and T, navigate to where your textures are. Mine are right here, and just find where your all your textures are. So these are my concrete textures. I'm going to go ahead and open these. It'll automatically apply all the textures that Blender can use in PBR to the object. So you can see we have all these textures set up. They're already mapped and everything. This model should already be UV unwrapped, but for some reason, if it isn't, I really don't know what to tell you. But it should be. But these are all our textures. Quick explanation for all these textures. If you don't know what PBR is physically based rendering, and it's how photorealistic graphics work. It's physically based rendering, how light reacts to different materials accurately as real life. So this first texture is called base color. It's literally just the texture for your object. It's the base texture. Its color space is set to sRGB always because it's giving color data to our Principal BSDF. We have our metallic shader. This basically defines the metallic and non-metallic parts of your material. Typically in PBR, a lot of times, in my experience at least, you don't see this texture a lot. But if you're working with any kind of metal textures or anything that uses a metallic shader or a metallic texture, then it will be on there. Next up is roughness. Roughness basically just tells Blender what is shiny and what is rough. You might have, in place of this roughness node, a glossy node, or not a glossy node, a glossy texture, instead of a roughness texture. If that happens, then all it is just Shift A and then invert. Just add an invert node right here between this little connection, and then it'll, because a glossy texture, or I forgot the name, I'm probably calling it something completely wrong to be honest, but they're basically just inverses of each other. One has black as height, one has black as what should be lower, just different stuff like that. Then your normal map. Your normal map basically fakes geometry on your texture. It adds, makes it look like there's geometry that's not there, but it's pretty good. But once you get really close to it, you can definitely tell that there's no actual geometry there, and that's where displacement comes in. These textures don't have displacement, but displacement Imagine a normal map, except it actually moves around the faces and vertices of your mesh. So now that we have that out of the way, we can go ahead and texture the rest. So you can see automatically, I click this part, and it's textured too, even though it's a different part of the model. That's because they use the same material up here. You can see it says concrete, and no matter what I switch through, that concrete material stays the same. So as long as your object has the same material as another object, you don't have to do anything. So now this is our metal. It's the metal parts of it. So basically, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Control Shift T, where textures is, and we're just going to right here, Windows and Metal. Just select all these, and then Principal Texture Setup. You will notice that we did select a lot more textures than are in here, but like I said, these are just the textures that Blender defaults to using in PBR because these are the main ones you need. So now that we have that, these are still metal. This is metal. Now we have cloth. So the cloth is the exact same thing. Just find where your cloth is, import it, and there we go. And so now we select the door. This is labeled entrance. Control Shift T. Find entrance. Entrance is right here. Select all of them, and then Principal Texture Setup. And I'm pretty sure these are all the same since they're the same viewport color. They are. That's the same. That's the same. Now for our air conditioning, we're going to Control Shift T. Find our air conditioning right here. Bam. And then these connectors. Just keep doing this until you have all of it textured. And I'm pretty sure that is all of it textured right there. So now with this done, I'm pretty sure this camera is the same as connectors. Yep. Now that this is done, what we can do is we can go up here to the top right where these little two squares are. One is dotted. Click it, hit B on our keyboard for box select. Just select this whole model, and then you can turn that those two little squares off. This is just so we have everything selected, even if there's something that we can't see from the other side. This makes it transparent, so you can see through the model and select everything. So I'm just going to reselect the model like that. Turn this off. Hit G on my keyboard and just move it over to where our cube is. And I'm going to hit R, Z, and then 180. This will turn our thing around 180 degrees. We can delete this cube here in a second. Don't worry about it right now. But for now, we just want to get this matched up to how we want it to look on our camera. So that is all right. It's not the best. Something like that. Now we can delete the cube, and we can go ahead and see how this looks now. I actually probably want it to be more of like this camera angle, and then we're just going to select our camera, go down to this little camera icon, change the focal length a little bit, just so we have a little bit more of the actual building in there. And now once we have that, what we can do is we can go ahead and set up a very basic lighting and HDRI scene. So I want this scene to be very foggy, very atmospheric, and so most of that is done by the volume, which is closer to the middle of the tutorial. So for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to go over here on our web browser, go to hdrhaven.com, and just go to HDRIs, and then just find any that you want. So this one looks okay. I'm going to see if there's all these are natural light. I'm just trying to find one that's kind of gloomy, but not too bad. This one looks pretty good. I already have this one downloaded actually, so I don't need to download it, but you can just download any of these. I don't recommend going 1K just in case you can see it in the background. It'll be very blurry and pixelated. Anything over 1K should work. So I'm just going to go into Blender, go to my world settings right here, this little globe, color, change it to environment texture, and then just open wherever you have your HDRI saved. So I know the name of my HDRI, so I'm just going to open it up like that. And then we're going to Shift A, and we're going to add a sunlight. And I want these shadows to be coming this way, over toward the camera, I mean. So we're just going to angle our sun that way. And we're going to change the sun lamp. Actually, we're not going to change the sun lamp just yet. We're going to see how it looks right now. I'm going to go ahead and save this, which you probably should have done a little bit ago. And I'm going to name it just building. I'm going to save that. Change my render engine to cycles, device, GPU, compute. If this isn't available or if it's grayed out, just go up here to the top left where it says edit, preferences, system, and then just make sure your graphics card is selected. So I'm going to go ahead and go into rendered mode now. This is probably going to look very bad because we don't have any real textures on anything. But this is what we're working with so far, and it's looking pretty good. I'm probably going to change the lighting a lot through this tutorial, so just be prepared for that. But you can see right now we have these little gaps in the terrain. I'm going to go ahead and just fix this terrain for the building. So I'm just going to go back into my sculpting mode. I'm going to hit Shift S to go into smooth mode and just kind of smooth this out. Maybe hit G and grab it to where it's kind of like this. I want to pull this down at the door because you're definitely going to be able to see texture leaking through there. And then I'm just going to hit X to go back into Sculpt Draw and just kind of fill this in. It's okay if you get a little bit of overlap on this. Just Shift S and then just kind of pat it down. So that should take care of the little gap. We kind of have a little one right there, but that's that. Alright, so now that we have that, what we can go ahead and do is we can get our ground texture. So I'm just going to go into Bridge, Quixel Bridge. It's very, very good for quickly importing assets and stuff into Blender from Quixel. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to go into Collections because there's a certain moss material that I remember seeing in some kind of collection. I'm not sure which one it was, but not sure. It might have been this one. I can see if I can find this material or not. It depends. Alright, so I'm just going to look up mossy rock. Bridge is a bit slow. And then go to surfaces. Ground. Other. That's not it. Actually, this one might work pretty good. So I already have this downloaded on my computer because I've downloaded it before. But I'm just going to export it to Blender, and we're going to see how this does. Alright, so the texture is now in Blender. So importing things from Bridge to Blender, if you're doing this, very, very easy. So if you're importing a model, the model will automatically just show up in the scene. But if you're importing a texture, all you have to, or a material, just click on whatever you want to texture. Go to your little material icon right here, down here, and just find that mossy rock ground material. So one thing with Bridge imports into Blender that I've noticed, I'm not sure why it does this, but the normal map is always connected to the alpha. You're going to want to change that to normal because then your object's just going to be transparent. So if we go into our render view now, we'll probably see the texture looks a little bit funky. It might be too big, it might be too small. It is way too big right now. So the way we fix that is something called UV unwrapping. So just hit Tab, U, Smart UV Project, click OK. Nothing's going to happen right now because we have to go back into our shader editor. Go over all the way over here to where the texture coordinate is, and it's automatically set on generated. Just change that to UV. Just put the UV into the vector. This will change the texture instead of just automatically slapping it on the plane to use our UV coordinates, which I'll get into right now. So to actually change the size of this texture, what we have to do is we have to go up here under the Blender logo at the top left, click this little ball and go to UV editor, hit tab with our object selected, and then we can see we have all our faces mapped to a specific part of the texture. Just hit A over here to select and just scale it, and you can see our texture is now moving with our UVs. So that's still way too big, so I'm just going to scale it up a little bit more. Maybe something like that. That should be good. And so now actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide this again, and I'm going to subdivide it one more time. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here. Actually, I don't even know if this will work. And it will not work. Okay. So never mind that. I was going to add displacement, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to undo that by hitting Control Z a bunch of times. I was going to add displacement, but this doesn't come with a displacement texture. I don't know if I have to download it separately or if Quixel just doesn't come with displacement textures in Blender. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and import some assets. So importing assets and set dressing your environment for composition and everything, it's one of my favorite parts. It's also one of the most time-consuming parts, just because of how many things you have to lay down. My most important tip for laying down ground assets and stuff is, especially if it's nature, there's never enough detail, but there is too much detail. Now that might be confusing, but in 3D graphics, digital renders, we cannot hope to pack as much detail as nature has. With that being said, there is always too little detail. You always want to add enough to where there looks like there's a lot in the scene, but there's also not so much in the scene that it just completely boggles down your computer and different stuff like that. Just try to switch up assets. If you're using grass, try to switch up different types of grass, try to switch up different types of rocks. When I get to the point where I'm adding grass as particle systems, I'll obviously come back and show you guys how I'm doing that. But as far as what I'm doing right now, it's literally just importing assets from Bridge and placing them into my scene. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and I'll be right back as soon as I get to a point where I need to be back. Alright guys, I'm back. I have this scene set up right now. It's pretty basic. It looks really complicated from the camera angle. That's my favorite thing, is just like having little things that like look very, very complex from the camera angle, but as soon as you like move them, it's just this. But I'm moving on to the smaller objects now, like rocks and stuff. So basically with rocks, like tiny little rocks like this, typically I would just place them. I'm going to make sure to change this to normal. But typically I would place them, but I don't know if I'm going to place them yet. I gotta make sure that looks good. Typically what I would do with rocks and stuff like this is I would make a little particle system, because we have a lot of rock right here. We have a lot of rock right here. So typically I would make a particle system to just kind of fill it in right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back over here. I'm going to select all my rocks by shift-clicking them, hitting Control G, going down here to create new collection, and just name these rocks. Now I'm going to select our ground plane. I'm going to go into, under object mode, I'm going to go to weight paint, and then I'm just going to kind of paint in where I want these rocks to be. Just kind of any open space, really, like this. And yeah, I think that should do nicely. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our particle settings, which is this ball with the little other 3 balls coming off of it. We're going to add a new one, change it to hair. Under render, change render as to collection, and then just choose the collection that you made. So right now you can see it's just scattered all over the plane. So to fix that, we can go down to vertex groups, almost at the very bottom, density, and just select our group. So you see right now they're all pretty much like this. So what we want to do right now is under render, we can go ahead and not do that. We can click pick random. That'll kind of get rid of this little kind of thing we got going on. We can change the scale, or not scale, scale randomness, to just kind of make these rocks a little bit better. Right now they're overlapping, so you can just change the seed for this. That looks okay, and then we can just change the amount of particles down to maybe 500. And then what we can do is, I'm actually going to change the scale a little bit, so it's like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get some grass for this little area right here. So grass, I'm just going to get from bridge once again. I'm just going to look up grass. Then we'll see what comes up here. I'm going to go to 3D plants. We're just going to go to grass. We're going to see what we can find here. So thatching grass is my favorite grass to use, but I'm trying to see if there's any other type of grass we could use, because the scene is very, very green. I think thatching grass might work, maybe. We can combine this with maybe spear grass or something, I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead, I already have this downloaded because I've used it in scenes before. But I'm going to go ahead and export it to Blender, and wait for it to export. There we go. So now what we can do is we should be able to select our grass. Nope, we gotta select each individual grass. So with the grass, you don't have to use all of it. I just recommend getting some clumps like this, just so we have some variation. Maybe get one of these smaller parts. Now we have our grass. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it over here. Select all of our grass. We'll move these out of the way first. Select all of our grass by shift clicking. I could box select these, but I didn't. So we're going to click Control G and then aim a new collection of grass. And now that we have that, what we can do is we can go ahead and create a new vertex group by going down here to this little object data properties, this little green triangle thing. Clicking a new group, I'm going to go ahead and rename this one to grass. I'm going to name the first one to rocks. So we can select our grass, go back into weight paint, and then we can start painting on our rocks. Or not our rocks, our ground. So grass needs to be filled up quite a bit, just because of how much grass is usually in things. And so I'd say that's good. And now we just go to our particle settings, create a new particle system. I'm going to rename this one grass, and then rename the first one to rocks. Select our grass, hair, render as, collection, instance collection is grass. And then under vertex groups, we just choose our grass. So now we have our grass right here. It's in these straight lines because of how... one, because of probably count of our plane, and two, just because it's a small area. But what we can do to fix that is we can just kind of change the scale randomness a little bit to kind of give it a little bit more scale. We can change the seed to something like that. But what we can do now is go to children and then interpolated. And I'm going to change the display amount to maybe 3, and then the render amount to 3 as well, just to see if that works. And so that kind of gets rid of the weird grid effect that you have going on right there. So I'm just going to view the scene how it looks now and see how it looks, see if I need to make any adjustments to the rocks or grass that I just put down. And we should be good. Alright, so this is how our scene is looking now. We can see our grass is doing pretty good. I actually might change the display amount down to 2 on that, just so it's not a ton of grass. And I'm actually going to go up to our rocks, and I'm going to give them a new particle system too, but I'm going to change it to 2, and then the render amount to 2 as well on that. So now that we have that, what we can go ahead and do is we can start. I'm actually going to add, maybe duplicate one of these rock formations right here, and then just kind of put it right here, just to where it's kind of on the camera, kind of a little bit. Sometimes this works, sometimes this looks good, sometimes it doesn't look good, so we're just going to see here. So I actually don't think that looks that great. I might actually change this and bring it over here. Just kind of size it up a little bit to where it's just off of the camera right there. But now what we're going to do is the fun part, where I actually have to adjust the lighting to completely change. We're going to Shift A. Sorry, I didn't mention that. We're going to Shift A, add a cube, and then just scale it up over our entire scene. It doesn't matter how big it is as long as it covers the entire scene. You might get something like this. If you get something like this, you need to hit N on your keyboard, and then go to View. And then under Clip Start and Clip End, just change N to an absurdly large number. And so that didn't do anything because we're in the camera view. So now what we have to do is we have to go to our camera, and then under our camera settings, you can see the Clip Start and Clip End is here. Change the clip end to something really high, and you can see it fixes that. So the reason you need to fix that is because the volume will not appear if the object is clipping out, because the whole shader of the object is the volume. That's what's controlling the volume. So if that object is clipping out and it's not showing in the render, then your volume right there won't show. So you'll just have that little triangle of just no volume, while everything else is volume. So now we can go click back on our cube, and click back on our cube right here. And go to Materials, click Create New. Under Surface, disconnect it. Under Volume, change it to Principal Volume, and change the density to something like 0.002 to start out. Volume was always, excuse me, I can't talk today. Volume is always very finicky, so it might take a little bit to kind of get it straight. We're gonna have to adjust our lighting a little bit, maybe. It'll be insanely lucky if we don't have to, but. We're going to wait for this to render out real quick. And I'm actually going to change this to maybe something like 0.02, and then just crank my sun lamp all the way up. I'm going to change the sun lamp to something like 10. That barely does anything, really. I'm going to change it to maybe 50. Yeah, that does a lot. Okay, that's really cool. Okay, so the idea for this scene, don't worry if this scene is too dark, because that's not the main focus of the scene. The main focus of the scene is to be dark and gloomy and have very cinematic lighting, which I really, really like this lighting coming through right here. But we're also going to add some more lighting to other parts of it, just so we don't have just flat lighting right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is this camera. I'm actually going to add a point light. I know it's a camera. I know this is not going to make any sense, but it might look good in the final render. So I'm going to do it. I'm just going to add a point light, place it in front of the camera, give it a power of maybe 50, and a orange glow, and we'll see how that looks. I don't know if this is going to look good. This is kind of trial and error a little bit. I didn't prepare for this part of the tutorial, but we're gonna try it anyway. So we're gonna wait for this to render out and see how this looks. Oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool right there. So I actually might change this to a blue color. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, I'm really liking how this is looking right now. Now that we have this, what we can go ahead and do is more set dressing to the scene. So, what I don't really like is how right here, over by these trees, is very, very bland. So I'm going to see if I can go ahead and just kind of put one of these rock structures up here, kind of in between these trees. Move it back to where it's kinda like this. So I want it to look like there's depth going up there. Not that one. I just kind of want to make it look like there's a bunch of depth going up here. Something like that, maybe. And then we can see how it's looking in our render. And alright, this is looking very, very nice. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to find a mountain 3D model to just kind of put in the background. I don't know where I'm going to try to get one of these mountain 3D models at. But we're going to look together. So we're going to go to CG Trader, Sketchfab, Free 3D. Because I'm very, very lazy and I do not want to make these mountains. Okay, so this is a pretty good looking mountain. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. They don't need to be super, super good or anything. They just need to be something to put in the background. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to wait for this to download and we're going to put it in the background of our scene just so it kind of has a little bit more depth, because I want the sky to be visible, but I also don't want it to be completely blown out. So we're just going to download this. And while we're downloading this, if you guys are watching and you guys have watched through this tutorial, thank you guys so much. We just hit 4,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. I can't thank you guys enough for that support. But yeah. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and open this. Let's see what's in this folder here. All right, so we need these. We're probably gonna need the textures and the mountain. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop these in my videos. Just drop those in my videos folder because my computer is full of random junk. And now that we have that, what we can do is go ahead and save, file, append, find wherever that project is. It started with a G, I think. Oh, it's in my videos folder. That's probably why. We're going to go to mesh. Actually, not mesh. We're going to go to object and then landscape, append. And so that gives us this mountain right here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm just going to hit C and use my scroll wheel and just kind of take off all of this crust of the mountain. Imagine it like you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you're a very picky kid. And then once you have it all selected, just hit enter and then delete and then vertices. And so that just leaves us with this mountain. So we can go ahead and put this somewhere in the scene where it's very, very big. And we have that. So it's already textured and everything, so we're good to go on that part. If it responds. Blender likes to crash on me. Alright, we might be cool. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm actually going to take the mountain because it's very obvious this is way too many polygons because of how much it's slowing down my Blender. I'm just going to go and add a, where's the Displacement Modifier? I'm going to make it 0.3. So this is going to give us 0.3 of the amount of faces that were originally on it. So I'm going to do that. And then we can go ahead and click this and click apply. And we don't really need this normal and displacement map. I'm going to go ahead and take away all the displacement maps because we're not going to need it because this is a background object. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And we're going to render it in our viewport and see how it's looking. Alright, so this is how our scene is looking right now. And I'd say that's pretty much finished. I have to fix that right there. But I'd say that's pretty much finished. I might add a few things. I'm going to take it into Photoshop after and composite it a little bit. But that's it. This is how you make this render. This like really cinematic Nordic volcano-ish render in Blender using Quixel Megascans. So thanks guys so much for watching. My name is Michael from Polygon Island. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be very happy to answer them as much to my ability as I can. But thanks guys so much for watching. My name is Michael from Polygon Island. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.